What's up everybody, Griffey here. Got a taste for terror? Can't get enough of things that go bump in the night? Fear not, Shudder's got you covered with these upcoming original movies. Ever since Late Night with the Devil shattered expectations at the box office, IFC Films and Shudder have been releasing new horror films into theaters on a near monthly basis. Oddity, Skincare, and Azrael all immediately launched into wide release in the 6 months after Devil, while Getaway currently stands as IFC and Shudder's final theatrical release for 2024. And there are already plans to keep this hot streak alive as 2025 rolls around. Grafted, a horror film about a skin grafting operation gone wrong, is set for a January 24th, 2025 theatrical launch. Hailing from indie filmmaker Sasha Rambo, several news outlets have already begun comparing Grafted to another indie horror flick, 2024's The Substance. So, will Shudder's first big screen title of 2025 emerge from the shadow of the previous year's body horror hit? For now, that remains to be seen. Nothing screams nightmare like a family vacation, and nobody knows that better than the family at the heart of Getaway. This upcoming film sees its lead characters embark on a journey to a remote Swedish island that just so happens to be the home of a prolific serial killer. Getaway comes courtesy of director Stefan Hars and writer Nick Frost, who also stars in the film. Previously, Frost's only credit as a feature writer was on 2011's so-so sci-fi flick Paul. So Getaway sees the Shaun of the Dead star venturing into relatively new creative territory.
How's that for a slice of fried gold?
Yeah, boy!
And while it's hard to say whether or not the movie will live up to the promise of past horror comedies anchored by Frost, die-hard horror fans won't have to wait long to find out. Shudder has set an early December domestic theatrical release for the movie just in time for the holidays. A historic first-time collaboration between Guatemalan and American studios, Rita follows a 13-year-old girl who, in an attempt to escape from her abusive father, winds up in an institution populated by fantasy creatures. These inhabitants are attempting to defeat the nefarious forces that rule the world, and Rita lies at the heart of their plans. Rita reportedly dovetails real-life horrors with the tears of classic fantasy literature. It's a bold concept involving children in peril that won't be for everyone, but these provocative qualities could also make Rita stand out among the new horror movies coming in late 2024. It's also commendable that Shudder is making its big Thanksgiving original horror movie an international title from a filmmaker unknown to domestic audiences rather than a movie tied into a pre-existing franchise. With Rita, the streamer is demonstrating that there will always be room for ambition and creativity on its tentpole release slate. It's probably fair to say that Shudder isn't really big on franchises. Given that it specializes in artsy festival acquisition titles such as Skinamarink and Saloon, it's not often that sequels, prequels, or spin-offs wind up on the streamer's original release slate. But one exception to this emerged in 2024, when In a Violent Nature, a Sundance feature acquired by IFC Films / Shudder, became a decent box office performer at the end of May. In the wake of the film's success, Shudder announced at 2024 San Diego Comic-Con that In a Violent Nature 2 was on the way. Picking this feature for the franchise treatment makes sense too. Violent Nature killer Johnny is very much a slasher foe in the vein of Jason, Michael Myers, Chucky, and countless other iconic horror franchise villains, and his potential arguably reaches far beyond that of a one-and-done movie appearance. Whether it's the ventriloquist dummy in Magic, possessed Chucky toys, or the childlike robot in Megan, dolls in horror movies are a match made in hell.
You should probably run.
The Rule of Jenny Penn, an upcoming indie feature written and directed by James Ashcroft, is set to continue that tradition. Jeffrey Rush stars as a partially paralyzed retirement home resident who discovers that a fellow resident, played by John Lithgow, has been using a dementia therapy doll for malicious purposes. It's a kooky sounding premise, sure, like a cross between Rear Window and Goosebumps' Night of the Living Dummy, but that combo could prove irresistible to horror fans. Shudder picked up the distribution rights to The Rule of Jenny Penn just before its premiere at 2024's Fantastic Fest. No concrete theatrical release date has been announced for the film yet, but you can bet that Shudder plans on giving this high-profile project a launch worthy of its A-list stars. Much like dolls, Satan is a go-to baddie in plenty of horror movies. And old Beelzebub made one hell of a splash in the 2017 Indonesian fright fest, Satan's Slaves, a remake of a classic 1980 Indonesian horror film of the same name. Forget the original though. By the time Satan's Slaves 2 Communion came out, this franchise had taken on a life of its own. No wonder Shudder snapped up the distribution rights to the follow-up across multiple major territories. Few horror franchises end after the second installment, and as Communion hit theaters in Indonesia, director Joko Anwar became well aware of the potential of future Satan's Slaves stories. In fact, he openly discussed plans to direct a third Satan's Slaves feature if the second one did well. Given the enormous success of Communion, a threequel now looks inevitable. While no concrete information on the third modern Satan's Slaves movie has come to light, this lucrative brand name surely won't lay dormant for long. And when it does come back, it's bound to reaffirm Satan's indomitable presence in the world of horror cinema. After bringing the Irish horror movie Oddity to movie theaters everywhere in July 2024, Shudder plans to once again turn to the Emerald Isle for one of its 2025 horror titles. The streamer has recently acquired distribution rights to Fréwaka after its successful film festival run. Notably, Fréwaka will also join the growing list of movies released in the 2020s that are told largely in Gaelic, Ireland's native language. The movie follows a woman who, while struggling to deal with a personal tragedy, finds herself face to face with mythical Irish beings known as Nashi. It also doesn't hurt that the movie hails from director Aisling Clarke, who garnered largely positive reviews for her 2018 feature The Devil's Doorway.
Do you see her? Thomas?
With a mix of horror and fantasy, there's a lot to be excited about when it comes to Fréwaka, which is set to terrorize Shudder subscribers sometime in 2025. Normally, Shudder purchases the domestic rights to titles after their film festival premieres. Some of the best movies on Shudder have followed this process, including recent hits like Late Night with the Devil and In a Violent Nature, both of which were finished long before Shudder picked up their distribution rights. But the company's penchant for acquiring completed motion pictures was upended with the acquisition of The Cycle, months before it began shooting. Starring Escape Room's Deborah Ann Woll, as a woman who unearths horrific truths about her late father's past, The Cycle's unorthodox acquisition suggests that Shudder is now getting in on the ground floor of horror titles based on concept alone, rather than festival hype. If all goes well, this could be the kind of star-driven horror flick that continues Shudder's recent hot streak, and it could forever change the way that the streamer acquires its movies. Director Randall Okito makes his feature debut with Menace, the tale of a psychologically tormented young lady who relocates to a small town where people begin disappearing. No release date has yet been confirmed for this sci-fi horror hybrid, which stars 1883's Isabel May in the lead role. The movie's genre-bending premise makes it an interesting departure from Shudder's other releases, which typically focus on either supernatural scares or slasher baddies. Notably, Menace hasn't been screened at any film festivals to date. Shudder acquired the movie back in May 2024, but all we currently know for sure is that it will almost certainly be coming in 2025. Will it pave the road for a boom in sci-fi features at Shudder? Only time will tell.